Hello everyone, friends. Today we're going to break down the gameplay of the wonderful and fun game called Rich Life Moneymaker. This is an incremental idler that was brought to our attention for publishing a few months ago. We've already gone through a number of different development iterations, and now we're going to take some time to sit down and discuss in detail exactly what's happening with this game and how things are going. Mikhail is managing this game for us. Misha, then you go ahead and tell us, organize the order of speakers. If you want to level up and get published, go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the publishing form. If you just want to monetize your game, go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the mediation form.
The game is a financial clicker. Basically, you tap on the screen to earn virtual currency, and with that currency, you unlock new businesses that automatically generate passive income. That's the short version. The game's metrics are good. For example, day 1 retention is 30%, and on the 7th day, 10%, and on the 14th day, 7%. Each play session is about 30 minutes long. Players have about 2 separate sessions per day. The monetization split is 1-3, with in-app purchases being 1. Based on these figures, ad revenue is 2 million. So it's 1-3. Overall, there's nothing more to add. So, for those who have played, I'd like to hear your detailed suggestions for further enhancing the gameplay as well as monetization, and more broadly speaking, to get both positive and negative feedback.
What interests you most in game development? Write in the comments and leave a like to see more useful videos.
It should be mentioned right from the very start that this is essentially a clone of the game Business Empire. Back in the day, Business Empire was quite a unique and interesting game, which I think is the main reason it was able to achieve some fairly decent results. No, but at the same time, it has its own serious drawbacks. As I go along, I'll be comparing these two games, mentioning and commenting on Rich Life. There is basically no consistency overall. There's no unified color code for the buttons. It's not missing everywhere, but it's often lacking. For example, an add button can either be transparent or green. That is, your eye doesn't always catch and understand that the content behind an ad is, say, free content. The buttons for in-game actions themselves can also vary. They might be white or transparent. I believe that in a high-load interface, these are quite important things, although you could generally categorize them as polish and not pay attention to them right now. There are accent animations. That's certainly a positive feature. It makes playing easier in such a busy format. But even accent animations and notifiers can frequently end up creating false expectations. For example, a business building button might be flashing actively even though there is absolutely nothing available there yet. That's one way. There might be something else as well. I won't dwell on this right now. Offer designs need to be refined here at the intersection of monetization and visuals. The simplest example is the very first offer, Disable Ads, which appears after showing an interstitial in a great spot with seemingly great motivation. But at the same time, it's just several layers of these white semi-panels, semi-buttons. It's unclear what they are. And the most prominent noticeable element on this entire offer is a plain white close cross in the upper right corner. If you press the buy button, you're then taken to some kind of store. Here, obviously, I think the funnel could be greatly improved by reducing the number of steps. If we compare the gameplay of the original Business Empire and Rich Life again, Rich Life has a much softer balance. The original Empire, on the other hand, is much more hardcore. There are additional mechanics in Rich Life where you get tickets for watching ads. This works especially well at the beginning because thanks to the more forgiving game balance, you can speed up your clicker and start earning several times more per tap, which lets you extend your session and unlock more businesses. It's a great strategic move. Here, I'd just like to suggest improving the introduction of this mechanic, maybe add a more structured tutorial or highlight it more clearly because right now it's kind of a case of if you figure it out, good for you, since the tickets are given at the start of the game, but you actually need them 5 or 10 minutes later and it's easy to forget about them. I think there's a lot of room for growth here. Now regarding the overall balance of the game mechanics. Again, Rich Life is much gentler than Business Empire. In Business Empire, there's a big problem, a major issue with balance, where at some point everything becomes too expensive and there's really nothing to do. There are no mid-priced purchases available. It's drawn out, difficult, and extremely tedious. Here, everything is somewhat simplified, but I also think the medium-term balance needs improvement. I believe this can be tracked through retention metrics. Next, the balance of mechanic distribution. That is, it's the balance of medium-term, short-term, and long-term goals. If you treat each business as a kind of mini-mechanic that sets a goal, in Rich Life, this loop, this cycle, is set up better. They have gameplay mechanics like the veterinary clinic, where you need to log in every minute and start new operations. They have mechanics that generate income in a passive format. They have mechanics that are a bit more long-term, where you actually need to wait until something matures for sale or to finally receive revenue. I'd weigh the order these mechanics get introduced. It seems to me that the veterinary clinic doesn't appear right away. I think it would be worth trying to introduce it earlier, because returning to it actually motivates the player to check what new notification has popped up. Now, some general comments. The genre is interesting, and I consider it promising, despite the fact that there are already a lot of clones, but right now they're just cannibalizing each other. There needs to be someone who will develop this whole direction further, someone who will either add more meaningful minigames to the businesses or streamline and simplify the interface, because in both games, in some businesses, the interface is still extremely confusing, hardcore, and to put it mildly, unpleasant. But overall, the potential is excellent. And I'd also wish for more live placements in the game, so that in the moment, if you don't have enough cash for a purchase, a special treasure chest might suddenly appear, or maybe, I don't know, a little wallet could be added for simply watching a short advertisement. And if a player spends too long on the clicker screen, it would be beneficial to offer them an additional instant cash boost.
In this case, I completely stepped away from game design.
My comments are purely about UI UX, and they're quite extensive, some of which Anton has already highlighted to some extent. Background. I've actually been familiar with the project for the past month or two now, for certain reasons, so this was already my second session. I played on an iPhone. I'll stick to my main area of expertise, which is design. First of all, when you open the main screen, there's absolutely no emphasis. It's quite flat and it doesn't read well. What does it mean to read well? Actually, it's very easy to check. You close your eyes, open them, and you realize what you see first, what you see second, and what you see third. There, everything lacks contrast. Everything is pretty much monotone. Second point. Throughout the game, you feel an inconsistent style. There are realistic images, and right next to them on the same screen, there's a realistic image for the loot, but it's blurred. Then you log in the next day, and a daily quest pops up that's done in a completely cartoonish style. Quite a few screens are really overloaded with information. A good example of this kind of overload is the loot section or the businesses section. There are way too many color accents there, and they're very hard to read. It feels like there's no unified practice or overall UI kit that answers the question of which color is responsible for what. I also recommend never using pure black or pure white. For example, you have a dark gray background on the main screen, which you can compare to the pure black backgrounds on other screens like in the business section. Pure black and pure white really cheapen the appearance of the screen. And sometimes you also see outlines. Sometimes they're there, sometimes not. The UI kit problem is a global issue for the game. I recommend standardizing this, bringing the color palette to a standard, deciding which color is your A color, profitable and pleasant, and which is your B color, like an error color, for example. And if you want to take the visual quality of the game up another notch, then move away from flat button designs. Flat means when you have a solid color fill, a solid color border, and solid color text. The screen itself should have a sense of depth, texture, tactile qualities, and various decorative elements. And then even after you sort everything by color, you'll still run into situations where there are screens with a lot of colors displayed at the same time. You close and open your eyes, but still, only a few elements are perceived simultaneously. In such cases, try adjusting the scale. First and foremost, it is about scale, and then you can add effects and animations. The most important thing to start with is reworking the offers, as this is a very vital source of revenue. Make them more readable, more accentuated, and more attractive.
Thanks a lot, Tanya.
I would likely focus on player onboarding, progression, and the development of a tutorial. I struggled to figure out for the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game where to go or what to buy. Part of the problem is what Danya just mentioned, but another part is that there's a lack of a proper tutorial that would explain to you that after you've tapped and earned some money, you can go somewhere, buy something, what brings you money, and what is just a collectible element. Plus, I'll add that the balance seemed a bit odd to me in places, because for the first 3 or 4 minutes I was basically just clicking the screen. Only after that time was I able to go and buy something. And when you buy your first clothing store, I think you can expand it, and the first expansion takes 30 minutes, while the second one takes 4 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. That was quite unusual, because there are not any short duration timers at the beginning of the game. So you buy your first business, your second business, your third business, and in each of these businesses, you might have to wait half an hour to expand them. Basically, I think that's all I have. I think it would be worth making a name generator. That's basically it.
Thanks a lot.
Yes. Let's start right away with the last point, the name generator. There's also another thing. You still need to choose what type of store you'll have, like a local store or a large store chain. That's not there right now, and that's confusing too.
It is like you have all the money and you have already entered the name, but you still find that you can't click on open business because you also need to click on this block right here, which doesn't look like a button at all, yeah. For onboarding, that's pretty confusing. I think it's quite critical. And if we talk about general things, there's a common problem, I think, with all these projects I've observed. They generally have a problem in that, over time, businesses become unprofitable, and the whole economy shifts to where you end up working only with crypto, only with investments. They try to partially solve this problem by merging businesses and opening new ones, like the energy company, for example, the most expensive one. But in any case, after, say, day 7 of gameplay, there's simply no reason for you to open these businesses anymore. You multiply all your capital through investments. Basically, that's how my gameplay went. Yeah, I spent about a month playing all of this, and by the end of the game, I would just log in, buy investments, sell them, and that's how I built up my capital, my profile.
I'm looking at this from a business perspective. And right here, guys, let's read what's written. First, we can see a very low rating. This simply means that some users just won't install this game because they see that rating. How do we handle this? First of all, you need to respond to reviews. There really aren't many reviews. And why exactly is that the case? Because we don't ask players to leave reviews. Again, it's truly unfortunate that no one responded to that 1-star review. The second point that I noticed, and which is definitely worth paying close attention to, is this. If we go over here, there is a field where you can choose to watch a reward advertisement and your income per click will increase. That is a very good thing. And then after watching the reward ad, a dialog window pops up on the screen that you are going to have to read through. But this bonus, the bonus per click, only lasts for 30 seconds. And by the time I finished reading and figuring out exactly what they were offering me for the first time, I only had about 14 to 16 seconds left out of those 30. Which was quite frustrating. As a business, this game is already being promoted, it's already not bad. But by fixing these obvious issues in the UI, we can significantly improve things even further. Subscribe to CAS.AI and enable notifications for monetization tips and cases from the world of mobile games.